Hi there, it's Keith from the Evangelical Free Church Stony Stratford, and we're continuing our series of short talks in the Gospel of Luke. And today we come to Luke chapter 5 verses 1 to 11. Now last week we were looking at Jesus' priority, and that was to teach the good news of the gospel. And so it's not surprising when we come to this passage that he is doing the same thing here. And he's preaching by the Lake Galilee, and he's actually using a boat belonging to Simon Peter to preach the good news because the crowds are so vast. But when he's finished, he makes a rather strange proposal. You know, often when someone puts a proposal to us, we might say, or we certainly think, what's in it for me? And perhaps that's what Peter was thinking here, because it didn't seem to be saying much that would benefit him. Jesus' actual proposal is this: let's go fishing. Verse 4, when he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into deep water and let down the nets for a catch." Now this doesn't make a lot of sense to Peter, and he answers in this way: "Master, we've worked hard all night and haven't caught anything, but because you say so, I will let down the nets." Peter is an experienced fisherman. What they generally used to do in those days was fish in the shallows. They didn't have deep water nets, and that's generally at night when you would get the best catch. By midday, and it certainly was midday or past that, the fish would have gone deeper in the centre of the lake. Plenty of room for them to evade the nets. But Peter also says he'll give it a go. And we might wonder why that is. But we do know, don't we, that just previously to this, Jesus has healed his mother-in-law. And he's seen the healings and undoubtedly heard some of the teaching he would have that morning when Jesus was using his boat to preach from. And something obviously intrigues him. He may be tired, but he's going to give it a go. Well, there is the most unexpected, well, from Peter's point of view, outcome you could ever imagine. They find that they are absolutely overwhelmed by the number of fish that are in the net. So great is the number of fish that the nets start to break. They call for assistance, and the boats are literally almost sinking. They've got to struggle back to land. And Peter is completely unnerved. His actual reaction is extraordinary. Verse 8, when Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees and said, "Go away from me, Lord. I am a sinful man." What has freaked him out? Well, quite simply, it's this. Peter would have known exactly who controlled the elements and creation. Only God could do this, or at the least, one of his prophets under God's authority. And so he's completely unnerved by being in the presence of Jesus. Is this God become man? Well, he knew that when the prophets met God, it was an unnerving experience. But Jesus asks him to follow him. We actually read here that he said to him, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you will be catching men." That's very much the title that was given to those who were disciples of a teacher in those days. Sort of this reverse on fishermen, but people actually fished for people, as it were. What does this tell us? It's not a question of what's in it for Peter. Effectively, Jesus commissions him. And it tells us a lot about what God does when we come to him. In the letter to the Ephesian church, we read this. This is Ephesians chapter 2, verse 8 to 10. For it is by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not from yourselves, it is a gift of God. Not by works, so that no one can boast. For we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. Very often we are thinking, what do we need to do to be right with God? Well, this tells us we need faith. But actually, the issue is this: we're given the faith. Effectively, when we are coming to God, when we realise we've failed and we need to be forgiven, we're asking him to give us faith. And that's what he does. It's not that he looks and sees something in us that's particularly desirable. It's not our works or our good deeds that attract him to us. It's because he loves us. And if we will cry out to him and seek forgiveness, he will give us faith. And then here's the thing. We can be used for good works. It's not a case of good works being rewarded with God's grace. It's a case of grace, something that's totally undeserved, making us fit for the good works that God would have us do. Thank you for listening, but we're coming up to Easter, so if you're looking for something to make you think as we come up to Easter, this is a 10-minute read of the real Easter. Maybe it will sort of dispel some misconceptions that you may have, or maybe it will just be an encouragement to read. It's a 10-minute read. You'll find them on the railings at the front of the church, or if you can't find one there, get in touch with me. You can find my number on Facebook. I'll be glad to pop it through the door if that's what you'd like. Thank you again for listening.